First Contact with Joshua Pert.
Hello Earthlings, how you doing today? Welcome back to First Contact Radio. Glad you could be here today. It is the 3rd of October 2017. A lot of news today in a short period of time, so hold on to your hats. Let's get into it. Yesterday, as we know, that there was this horrific shooting that took place, and there were many injuries. There were many people that were killed. The news cycle has completely been taken up by this event, as would be expected. Question is, was there anything else going on over the course of yesterday and during the period of this time that we might be aware of? Because oftentimes events occur, and sometimes there are events that occur and the coincidence and the timing is pretty weird. Here is one of these things that I think we should all be aware of. Yesterday was the beginning of the Benghazi Trial. Okay, something we've been waiting for a long time, but we didn't hear anything about that, and chances of hearing it are probably slim to none. We'll see what happens. It says dozens of assailants had burst into the main villa of the American mission in Benghazi, Libya on the night of September 11th, 2012, trashing the building and pounding on the metal cage door protecting a safe area where Ambassador J. Christopher Stevens, Sean Smith, a computer technician, and Scott Wickland, a diplomatic security officer, crouched out of view. It seemed clear that they were all about to die. Mr. Wickland testified Monday, the first day of the trial of Ahmed Abu Kahala, who was accused of helping orchestrate the attacks. Then the attackers left, but moments later, thick black smoke from the fire had started to pour in. Mr. Wickland told the others to follow him as they crawled to the bathroom window, but he lost them in the choking smoke. To this day, I don't even know where they went, he said. I was right next to them, and then that's it. The harrowing testimony from Mr. Wickland appearing in the United States District Court in Washington capped the day that began with the prosecution's opening statement, laying out the case that Mr. Kahatala conspired in and aided the attacks. It was underscored by surveillance video clips showing armed men bursting into the American mission complex, manhandling an unarmed Libyan guard, kicking at doors, stealing maps, and carrying cans of fuel that they used to set the deadly ablaze. But Mr. Wickland's testimony did not mention Ms. Katala's role, and the video clip showed him only briefly coming into the compound late in the attacks. Government video at the height of the assault showed many of the assailants circled in red, each of whom were identified by a prosecutor as Mr. Katala's associates. Abu Katala didn't do the killing by himself, John Crabb Jr., an assistant U.S. attorney, told the jurors. He didn't light the fires and he didn't fire the mortars, but you will hear that he is just as guilty as the men who lit the fires and the men who fired the mortars, because Abu Katala planned the attack. Abu Katala set the attack in motion. Abu Katala incited others to do his dirty work. But Jeffrey D. Robinson, a defense attorney, argued that Ms. Katala was being scapegoated. While the attacks were tragic, he said no credible evidence would show that his client was responsible. The evidence is going to show that there were other people who were behind the attack that masterminded the attack. Mr. Robinson said Abu Katala is just someone who we have decided the government has decided Libya can be blamed. Ms. Katala, who is 46 but looks older with gray hair and a gray beard, sat quietly at the defense table and listened to an Arabic translation. 4 Americans died in the attacks. Mr. Stevens and Ms. Smith died later from smoke inhalation in the building burning at the mission. There's more to the story, definitely more to this article here. I'm going to leave that for you to go check it out, so I want to move on. But this trial just got started yesterday. They're expecting it's going to take several months to get through all of this. So very interesting, weird coincidence that with all of the shooting yesterday that occurred, that this was also going on, because I know we've been waiting for the Benghazi trial to begin, and here it is. Another thing that happened that we should be aware of is over the course of the weekend, Jason Chaffetz said something very strange about the crimes of the Clintons and Obama and so on. Jason Chaffetz says Sessions refuses to prosecute Obama and Clinton crimes. While appearing as a guest on the Fox News Saturday, former Rep. Jason Chaffetz dropped a bombshell telling Judge Jeanine Pirro that Attorney General Jeff Sessions refuses to pursue major cases involving former President Barack Obama and 2016 Democrat presidential nominee Hillary Clinton. Barack and his administrators did things that if we all did, we'd be in jail right now, Garrow said, highlighting her long legal career. Now the Republicans are in power, and I am not suggesting that the party has anything to do with it, but when we see blatant obstruction of justice like we have seen in the Obama administration, example, when you have Eric Holder in contempt, you're the head of the government oversight reform, correct? Okay. So we could see that there's a problem going on here. There's more to this article. The link's available, First Contact Radio. But we could see there's a problem. So Jason Chaffetz called out Jeff Sessions. There's now been more awareness on this by the public that this is not being attended to. And so whatever moments or whatever thoughts Hillary and Holder and Lynch and all of those cast of characters thought may not happen, suddenly it's brought to attention that this isn't being addressed. And when things are brought to attention that aren't being addressed, oftentimes that is enough to fix the problem so things get addressed. So those were two instances of things that took place yesterday during the course of the events that were occurring. We should pay attention to how these things are unfolding because definitely they are. Now, yesterday's shooting was quite horrific. We have a death toll thus far of about 59, perhaps more. There are reports coming out of Vegas from various individuals that the body count is much higher. Let's hope and pray that that's not the truth. There's also a lot of injured persons out there. There's a tremendous amount of video available where you can see things taking place. Here is one of these videos. In this video, as it plays, you can see gunshots taking place, and you can see as they're hitting the ground here. You can watch the bullets hitting the ground. You'll see the smoke from those bullets. People are running, and just momentarily you'll see stuff hit the ground here. And just keep going here and see them all running, trying to figure out what's going on. And then you see little puffs of smoke there as the bullets are hitting the ground. Okay, so video is available. It's 55 seconds in length. You should be able to check this out, see what's going on. But these people were under, see the little puff of smoke there from where it hit. So these people are under tremendous amount of an attack that is really quite incredible that this occurred. And it's understandable why so many people are in shock because, you know, just listening to what's going on in the videos, people were unaware of really what was taking place. They thought it was fireworks at first. That wasn't the case. Now, we were told that the shooter was on the 32nd floor. However, when some of the video here that I have linked here is video showing what appears to be gunfire coming off of the 4th floor. And there's been a big discrepancy in the discussion on the various forums over at Poll, over at Donald, various other forums discussing what's going on with this. Some are saying this is just a strobe light that was in the window. Others are saying, no, that's not the case. This was the actual gunfire that was coming from that window, not 32nd floor. When you look at this image right here, you could see this is an image of the 4th floor, and you could see there's a hole right there. See the hole right there in the window? And over here, there looks like there's a couple more, one there and one there. Okay, so this is something that seems to be of importance that should be looked into. What are those holes? Was there really shooting from the 4th floor? If there was shooting from the 4th floor, in addition to the shooting from the 32nd floor, that would indicate multiple shooters. Now, the narrative that they've told us thus far is there is just one shooter, a lone gunman. Why have they told us that? Well, a conspiracy means that there's 2 or more people involved in conspiring to create some sort of a calamity. If there is a lone gunman, then you don't have that conspiracy because you've now eliminated that factor. You don't have 2 or more, you just have one individual. But if we can show that there is more than one individual, now we have a conspiracy that's going on. One of the things we do know about this is that it was well planned out, and the gentleman, Stephen Paddock, who is being accused of this, is somebody who apparently fought this situation out very, very well, because when they burst into the room, not only did they find a great amount of guns, somewhere up close to 24 now, a couple dozen, but they also found a couple of shooting platforms that were in the rooms. The reason I am able to tell you this is because I listened to the police scanners last night of what they were talking about. In addition to what was on the police scanners in those rooms, there was also multiple reports of shootings elsewhere. There was reports of gunfire at Bellagio, at Caesars, at Excalibur, at New York, New York, at Paris. There was reports of a suspicious package over at Luxor. It almost seemed as if there was this grand attack that was taking place over the course of that same time period, and we're only hearing about one particular instance. But here's an example. On the police audio, at one point they're saying shots are fired on both the 29th and 32nd floors. Well, you can't shoot. One person can't be in two places at once. You've got another place where it says out by the Tropicana Motel, you got an older white male figure in fatigues with a black bag. Out by the Tropicana, another location, you got another figure in black fatigues. They were confirming over at the other locations, more shooters. If you listen to the audio, you'll see that there's something more that's going on. All of these instances of additional shooters point to the fact that there was some sort of conspiracy at place. Okay, somebody had planned this attack. Now, many people are saying, well, this was just the guy who went to the room. This was Stephen Paddock, and that's it. But let's just look at this scenario. Let's say Stephen Paddock was simply a patsy, because we know that he was a multimillionaire. He had several planes. He wasn't just an average Joe like they're trying to paint it out to be. He was a multimillionaire, several planes. His father was an escaped criminal known as a psychopath. This guy, Stephen Paddock, had 27 different residences where he had gone to. Neighbors say that he would disappear for weeks or months at a time. There's stories of him with this girlfriend out in being radicalized in various different ways. He might have been radicalized by ISIS because ISIS is claiming responsibility and claiming that he is one of their own. He could have been radicalized by something here in the United States from like CNN, the way that they push it, because CNN is ISIS. You know, CNN is ISIS, and so it's all one and the same big connection. So we really need to, not get so caught up in this. Because let's say the guy walks up to his room. He's got the corner room because he's a high roller. He's got a room that no one's going to bother to check and see what he's bringing up into the room. I've been to Vegas many a times. I'm sure you have. They don't care what you bring in there. You could throw all kind of stuff in a bag. You walk into the hotel, they'll gladly put it on one of their carts and take it up to the room for you. So it's quite possible that he could have had all of his gear brought up to the room by the various bellhop services there at the hotel without anyone blinking an eye, especially if he was a high roller, because they know that he's going to be spending lots of money there. So let's say, for example, he's up there, he's going to his room, and there you have lingering in the hall someone who is one of these black ops, someone who is waiting for him. Stephen Paddock walks up to his room. The guy walks behind him, puts a gun in his back, pushes him into the room. Now he has access to the room, gets in the room, shoots Stephen Paddock. The guy's dead, and now they go on with the shooting. There's two different holes in the window, which indicate the possibility that there might be more than one shooter. Unless, of course, we're going to say that this man did it all by himself. When you listen to the police scanners and they made a breach into the room, the first thing the police officers said was there were the platforms where they were shooting. So even the police officer, upon first looking at the situation, recognized it as a situation that involved more than one shooter. Okay, so it's quite possible. I'm not saying this is what happened, but it is quite possible that Stephen Paddock could have been dead by the time all of this happened. And they simply took the information from him and push that he is the bad guy. And people are saying that there are so many holes in the story that don't make sense. Well, maybe it's because he didn't do it. Maybe because he was a patsy. What about all the stuff that they found at his house? That wouldn't be really too difficult if this guy's going to be made the patsy for somebody to go and drop all that stuff off at the house. Okay. Depending, let's say that it was, hours before, maybe even days before when this man could have been shot. They've had plenty of time. They could have gone to his house, dropped things off there so the police would find him. I don't know the answer. I'm not that saying that's what happened. I'm just saying from a speculation standpoint, it is something that we need to consider. We can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater in this regard. Now, here is some videos. I'm just going to make these available for you. This is one video which shows shooting, and it appears to be coming from the 4th floor. You see where the arrow is right here. And as the shooting goes, you'll see the blinking right there. This is the one they're trying to attribute and say, you see the lights. When you enlarge the screen, you can see it a lot better. But this is the one they're trying to say was just a strobe light. Just a strobe light. I've seen strobe lights before. You've all seen strobe lights. I don't know if I buy the strobe light answer. And of course, here's one more. This is another group of people out here, and they're trying to duck and get away from things. And as the camera pulls up, you will see right there. They're going to see the gun flash right there. Okay, this is what they're trying to claim is just a strobe light. Don't know, but it just seems like there's something a little bit more to meet the eye. Now, in terms of multiple shooters, we do have witnesses to this effect. Las Vegas shooting, Queensland, eyewitness to Mandalay attack. We have at least 3 different persons in here who describe multiple shooters. Let me scroll down here. Says, all right, here we go. He said he was staying in his room. He managed to escape. I got outside, was hiding in the bushes. There were multiple people dead and multiple shooters. I was just hiding, waiting for the police to get in. Here's another one here. He was running. He could hear the sound of gunfire. Multiple shooters. So throughout this entire article, you can see that these persons here were all claiming that there was more than one. Okay, so I think that we need to look into what this is about. There are articles available so you can read it. I don't have time to read it all, just trying to get you the links, but multiple shooters reported by multiple persons. Were they in a state of shock and maybe they didn't see things clearly? It's possible. But you also have to look at the fact that multiple people said they saw multiple shooters. You've got the police report that I read you that was coming off of the scanner in which they were talking about multiple reports of reports of gunfire from multiple locations, from multiple shooters. So we can't just rule that out. If we're going to do a proper investigation, we need to understand that there could be more than meets the eye. Now, what is the end game of all of this? If this is something that was more involved than just a random shooting of a guy who just went off half-cocked. Because if you think about it, whatever the situation was, this wasn't just a guy who decided to go crazy and started shooting people up. He planned this thing out. He planned it out. He made sure that there was multiple guns, as I said, upwards of 24 guns that he had in the room once they breached the room. There's the platforms that were in there. So this man took time to build platforms, bring guns. He thought this out. The angles, where the shooting was coming from, whatever it is, indicates something well thought out, and therefore you can't dismiss that possibility of what was really going on. So what would be the end game? Well, if you go and you do some reading, there's some really interesting analysis that are out there. And places that I like to go for information where I find extremely valid, first is the Donald over at Reddit. And if you go to 4chan, you go to the poll, politically correct section, incorrect section there. A lot of investigation going on there. You've got to weed through it. You can't just take everything at face value, because in this day and age, there are a lot of paid shills that are out there in the world that are simply trying to discredit everything that goes on. As you go through the forums, there's a very interesting communications that are taking place there. Someone will place some information that they have found, whether it be an article or a police scanner or video, and sometimes that information is true, sometimes it's not true. Oftentimes you see if something comes across and it appears to be true, one indication is how it gets attacked right away, because you will see many attackers, maybe from Share Blue or one of these other Soros related groups that are out there that are being funded as paid shills to go and do this kind of thing. They do it all the time. Okay, the social networks is a big source of information, and there's a true information war going on there. And so the information, you have one party trying to stop the information from getting out and one party trying to get the information out. The ones who are trying to stop it many times are being paid in order to do so. They don't really understand the whole logistics of what's going on. They're just cashing a paycheck and being good with that. So let's say there was something to this more than meets the eye of a crazed shooter going out there. What might be the end game? Well, there has been talk that this is going to increase the security and perhaps lead to uh, different security measures going into the casinos. And this would be a starting point. And then eventually it would spread on to the schooling systems and so on and so forth. Here's an article that popped up that kind of confirms all this. Guests stand at Wynn in a glimpse of Las Vegas future. This happened pretty quick. At entrances to the Wynn Resort in Las Vegas on Monday afternoon, guards scanned visitors with metal detectors, wands, and inspected their bags, creating a 10-minute wait to get inside. The new security protocol put in place after Sunday's mass shooting nearby is likely to become the norm on the Strip and possibly beyond. Okay, possibly beyond. That could be an end game here. A lot of times there's all of this, you know, processes that take place, and we're not always aware of how they are happening, but they happen very subtly. Who's behind all of this? It's hard to say. It's definitely hard to say, but we do know that the deep state is alive and well out there. We've been warned about it by plenty of persons. President Donald Trump is letting us know. Sean Hannity's spoken about it quite a bit. We're hearing Newt Gingrich. If we're paying attention, we keep hearing that phrase. Okay, there's a lot of anti-Americans embedded in there. You got the Muslim Brotherhood plan, 30-year plan to take over America. Okay, that plan was to come to an end or reach its point in 2020, because the plan is dated 1990, so 30 years takes it to 2020, end of Hillary's first term. So Hillary was someone who seems as if she was going to help see this plan make it through the finish line. Well, things got changed. So we've got 28 years from 1990 through now, 28 years of persons who are anti-American, perhaps jihadists, that are embedded in the American system. That's problematic. They might realize that their time is short because we now have a president, Donald Trump, who is not going to allow this stuff to go on, and they may decide that they're going to up their game of attacking. Can't wait till 2020. They don't have that luxury anymore because they don't have an ally in the White House like they used to have. Now, one of the things we're hearing through all of this is the cry for gun control, gun control, gun control. Well, let me refer those of you crying for gun control over here to the Firearms Owners Protection Act. Okay, I'm going to let you read this. There's a lot of information here. The bottom line to all of this is that many of these guns are already made illegal. But just because something is illegal doesn't mean others aren't going to get a hold of it. They're not going to break those laws. I'm pretty certain that heroin is illegal in the country, but there are plenty of people, despite it being illegal, will find a way to go ahead and get it. I'm pretty sure that there's a number of laws on the books that many people, liberals included, will go and break many of these little laws simply because they can. They don't feel that should have to abide by them. So when you hear all of these Hollywood lunatics calling for gun control, you got to ask yourself, how many laws are they breaking? Okay? How many of those out there doing cocaine? Cocaine's not legal, but I'm sure that there's a lot of Hollywood celebrities out there, having no problem with that illegal drug. And then they're going to go out there, going to cry, oh, rules, rules. We need laws to keep people from getting things illegal. Well, there is a law, but people are still getting them in Hollywood. People are doing the things. Pedophilia is illegal, but you still have this pedophilia ring in Hollywood, so people have found a way to go and do that. You can't say just because there's a law that's going to stop everything, because that's not going to happen. Here's a piece here. This is by Paul Harvey. Paul Harvey, as you know, is a very brilliant radio personality, very intelligent. And once this piece pops up here, I'll show you. But it's about gun control. The thing is with gun control, it really isn't what it seems to be, because gun control usually comes about in order to oppress a group of people. Case in point, Paul Harvey, are you considering backing gun control laws? Do you think because you may not own a gun, the rights guaranteed by the Second Amendment don't matter? Consider this. In 1929, the Soviet Union established gun control. From 1929 to 53, approximately 20 million dissidents unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. In 1911, Turkey established gun control. From 1915 to 1917, 1.5 million Armenians unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. Germany established gun control in 1938, and from 1939 to 1945, 13 million Jews, gypsies, homosexuals, the mentally ill, and others who were unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. China established gun control in 1935. From 1948 to 1952, 20 million political dissidents unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. Guatemala established gun control in 1964. From 64 through 81, 100,000 Mayan Indians unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. Uganda established gun control in 70. From 71 through 79, 300,000 Christians unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. Cambodia established gun control in 1956. From 1975 through 77, 1 million educated people unable to defend themselves were rounded up and exterminated. That places total victims and who lost their lives of gun control at approximately 56 million in the last century. Well, should we learn from the mistakes of history? The next time someone talks in favor of gun control, find out which group of citizens they wish to have exterminated. Okay, very good point. One of the common threads in there was unable to defend themselves. See, first they come for the guns. In order to get the guns, they have to scare people that these guns are dangerous. We have to take them away, because the average Joe is out there just shooting each other. No, the average Joe isn't just shooting each other. The psychos are shooting themselves. Okay, you go to Chicago and you've got black on black crime going on out there. People are killing each other within their own race. You go to other cities, you have white on white crime or Hispanic on Hispanic crime. It doesn't matter where you go. There's crime that is occurring, but it's usually a small minority of individuals that are doing that. When you use those things as an excuse to take away everyone's rights, now you have a problem, because you have a situation where people are unable to defend themselves and are then rounded up. And 56 million people were murdered in that way by governments who first took the guns and then went ahead and got to the people. Okay, quick little graph here just sort of sums up the ideas of, well, maybe not. Maybe not. Anyway, that's all the information for today. We're getting to the end of the show here. So what I want is simply for you to be able to take a look at things objectively. We can't buy into everything at face value just because we're shown by the media. Remember, the same media who's lied to us so many times is telling us the way things are now is truthful. We can't buy it. We got to take it with a grain of salt. Look at the sources available online. There's a tremendous amount of sources to go and learn from. You just have to pay attention. You have to be able to use critical thinking. It's not always something that is encouraged, but we have to use critical thinking so that we can go ahead and be able to have success in life as opposed to problems in life. Okay? So, Heavenly Father, Heavenly Mother, we pray this day for all of the victims of yesterday's shooting, for all those who were killed and all of those that were injured, that they might find healing. We pray for the citizens of America, that they might find healing through this and help to understand what went on. May we make this a day of peace. and love, where we learn to get together in harmony and learn to love each other better. In Jesus' name, amen. That's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow with more news and information. I love you. Keep loving each other. Talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.